Today we're going to take a look at the Tier 7 Premium IJN Battle Cruiser, or I suppose battleship, the Inamura. It's the reward for the ongoing campaign in the May 2026 update to World of Warships Legends, and I think it's a good ship. It's easy for me to recommend. Although this game, I think, is going to demonstrate perhaps more of my average experience in the ship. It's not particularly high damage, but it is a Xarkun. It's also a loss, but don't worry. The only reason I'm showing you the loss is because number one, it's a Xarkun, and number two, it's more interesting than any of the victories I've gotten in the Inamura so far. Most of the victories were decently high damage games, but they were also one-sided blowouts where the outcome of the battle was obvious within the first 5 minutes. It's not going to be the case in this battle. In fact, it's not going to be decided until really there's only a couple ships left standing. You'll see what I mean when we get there. And I did struggle with selecting which game I wanted to use because I've got actually 6 or 7 matches recorded, and I was initially planning to show you 2 of them, but it was going to end up being a 30-minute video, and I think we can discuss the ins and outs of the Inamura in more like 15 minutes. Plus, I always record these things before I go to work, and I don't think I can spend an hour trying to do commentary over a 30-minute video. 15 is going to have to do. But don't worry, I think you'll get a taste of the strengths and weaknesses of the ship, and I'll probably put up another match or two in the thing that I've got recorded, because I do have quite a bit of footage. Before we get into the specs, though, I'll show you the build with the mod selection. We're using Takagi, of course, free-to-play IJN Battleship Commander. I think if I had my pick, I'd probably go with the Borg Queen, but since this is a campaign ship, I want to make sure it works well with a free-to-play commander at the helm. I do have double concealment inspirations, though, in the form of Kondo and Swirsky. Your mileage may vary on that. You could, of course, spec into the accuracy or do whatever you want to do, but I think concealment is a highlight on the Inamura, and specking into it, I think, is helpful. Now, for this first sequence in the battle, we're going to be facing off against these 2 Bismarcks, which are not going to exactly give us broadside, so we're going to be shooting a lot of HE to begin with. I think the patch notes made a mention of the HE on the Inamura. It is good, although I think like most battleships, AP is probably going to be your primary shell choice. We're just in a situation where we've got this destroyer here, and we've got these 2 bow-tanking Bismarcks. The HE seems appropriate. Now, the damage on the HE is really excellent. The maximum HE shell damage is 7,000. Although we only have a 36% fire chance. 7,000, though. That is like British battleship numbers. High-end British battleship, too. Think the Nelson, the Conqueror, HMS Lion. All of those have HE shell damage at least approaching 7,000. So this can do a lot of damage, and even though the 36% fire chance isn't like the 41% fire chance, or 45, or whatever some of the British battleships are, it does light fires, and you probably don't want to be caught in a situation where it's melting you with the HE. At some point, we might end up getting a chunky salvo against these Bismarcks, but maybe not. I've seen this HE do something like 11-12K a salvo, but it only has 82 millimeters of penetration, and I'm sure the Bismarck is very heavily armored in a lot of places, so we probably do get a lot of shatters. That's probably why. The AP, however, we'll be switching to that, don't worry. The AP is also pretty good. It's got a maximum AP shell damage of 12,600. Doesn't have any improved pen angles, but it does have excellent pen. The armor penetration at max range, with specking into the range, of course, using flammable cannoneer, is 416.2 millimeters. That should be enough to punch through the armor of most of the battleships you're going to encounter, even at maximum range. And at point-blank range, 884.5 millimeters of pen. I don't know, but that might be one of the highest at the tier. The penetration to me seems excellent. The damage output seems excellent. I think the only question will be on the accuracy. And I'm going to tell you that I think the accuracy is good on this ship. I find it to be consistent and reliable. But I never know how to answer the question anymore how accurate is the battleship? Because I think a lot of people judge accuracy according to an idealistic standard that has no bearing on reality. It doesn't matter how accurate a battleship is in terms of its specs page or in terms of how many accuracy skills you can stack into the commander build. You're always going to have salvos where the shells don't go where you want them to. You are never going to have a battleship where you're shooting your guns and all of your shells go right into 1 pixel in the center of your aim point. They're always going to disperse, and some of them are going to miss, no matter what the specs say. But for the Inamura, I think objectively, the specs on the accuracy are great. 2.31 sigma, and the median dispersion, which I think is probably the most important number to look at, looks an awful lot like battlecruiser dispersion to me. 38 meter median max range vertical dispersion, 47 meter median max range horizontal dispersion. I think those numbers are pretty good, and I find these guns to be reliable. Although, depending on how you personally judge accuracy, your mileage may vary, and you may have seen a number of salvos so far in this match where the accuracy was not on point. But let me direct your attention to this Bismarck real quick. We've got the AP loaded finally, and the accuracy here in this salvo is good enough to do, I don't even know how much that was, more than 11K just into the Bismarck's angled superstructure. You can see what I mean about this AP hitting pretty hard and the accuracy being nice, at least in that salvo. Now, the survivability, 62,200 HP, pretty much on the low end of the tier, comparable to a Magi. But unlike a Magi, we have a battle cruiser armor scheme with 25mm bow and stern. We do have 32mm upper belt and deck, and the Citadel is exposed, although it does have the IJN turtleback that may or may not be effective. I'm going to err on the side of not effective because I've been shot in the broadside with this thing and lost about 2/3 of my HP. It was not a fun experience. I don't think you want to be giving broadside in hopes that the turtleback is going to save you from being Citadel, because I don't think it's going to do it. With the lack of armor, I suppose, and with the low HP pool, I wouldn't call this ship all that survivable. And the torpedo protection, or torpedo damage reduction, is only 26%. Not good at all. You don't want to be getting hit with torpedoes in this thing if you can help it. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, but the main battery reload time is 25.2 seconds with this build, and the range is 19.2. We've also got 36.7 second turret traverse. Secondary armaments, well, I don't know if those are worth talking about too much. There's a lot of secondaries. We've got 20 127mm secondaries, and we've got 12 140mm secondaries. They've got a base range of 6.6 kilometers, so you could build into the range, but I think you probably want to avoid doing that. And the reason I say that is because the sigma value on these secondaries is 1, like 1.0 even. That's terrible. And the dispersion, even at the median range, is nearly 250 meters. So you couldn't accuse them of being accurate. They're not going to be reliable. I don't see any reason to build into them. As for the AA defenses, I've gotten a Clear Skies medal at least one time in the Inamura, so it's at least somewhat capable of defending itself against planes. There's that, I suppose. Maneuverability, I'd call that a highlight. We've got a maximum speed of 30 knots, which is mostly why I'm not using gyrating drill bits. That, of course, nerfs the speed. And I don't think you want to do that on a battleship like this that's fast to begin with and not exactly well armored. But 30 knot top speed, and we've got a rather special engine boost. We've got 4 charges of it base. It gives a 12% speed buff. It lasts for 80 seconds, and it's got a really quick cooldown time of 70 seconds. I think it can get you going at over 30 knots, of course, but this won't be the fastest battleship at the tier. I suppose we should also mention the fact that it has a conventional battleship heal, which restores 310 HP per second for a duration of 28 seconds with an 80-second cooldown time. Nothing special there. And I think if you can get a battleship commander with flammable cannoneer and master mechanic, that's probably the way to go for this thing, so you can get more heals to support the relatively low survivability parameters. The rudder shift on this thing is 16 seconds. Turning circle, 880 meters. I don't think either of those numbers are particularly bad. And then the concealment, with our double concealment inspiration, 11.8 kilometers. So what we've got here is a reasonably stealthy battle cruiser with consistent, hard-hitting guns in both the AP and HE departments. It's not all that survivable, but if you can play around the relative lack of survivability by utilizing good positioning, stealth, and just general sound strategy and tactics, I think this is a really solid ship that can win you some games. You can see so far we haven't exactly blown any records out of the water. We're only at 100,000 damage done, and we have 3 kills. Now, the Massachusetts out here is broadside to us, and you'll see as we shoot at him that the accuracy is not, of course, always on point, as I alluded to. That might be due to my choices not to spec into accuracy as much as I could, but it is going to take a moment to take out the Massachusetts. And what we're trying to do at this point, because the kill count is so even in this game, 3v3 now, is we're trying to make it so that it's a 1v2 here with the Massachusetts. I'm shooting at him from across the map. He's got one of my teammates directly in front of him. We want to get as much damage out on him as we can before we have to go fight the key. And we probably want to avoid getting into close quarters combat with the key. Although I think at this point that is going to be unavoidable. We just want to make sure he doesn't destroy us with his torpedoes. Massachusetts has been mostly finished off by, I think, the battleship in front of him, but from across the map, we have the front guns coming out to yoink the killing blow. That is 4 kills now, and there's this key in front of us. He's going to push out from behind the rock. Undoubtedly, he's going to try to torpedo us, and in this sequence, you can see what I mean about the dispersion or the lack of accuracy on the secondaries. It's not good. I wouldn't build into them, although they do light some fires in the times I've gotten them to work. So I suppose there is that. Key's about to torpedo us. We've got his broadside, not good for him. This, I think, in his mind is probably a trade. I can totally understand it, but the key is going to give us our first Kraken Unleashed in the Inamura. And take a look at how the metal appears on Steam. It's like in the center of the screen, it's got this animation around it. I don't think it does that on console. Honestly, I kind of like that. I'd like to see them do that on the PlayStation and the Xbox. It looks pretty cool. Anyway, Kraken Unleashed, there's one ship left alive. It's a destroyer. Oh, it's the Akatsuki right there, and he's going to hit us with some torpedoes. He does get spotted. Unfortunately, our guns are pointed in the right direction, and I think we actually had a pretty good chance of winning this battle, but we're not going to. Akatsuki goes dark. We're going to try to take a blind fire, and hindsight is 20/20. I think had I not shot that salvo, it's possible we would have won the game. You'll see what I mean here. We're thinking Akatsuki is probably heading toward the right-hand side of the screen. That's not what he's doing. He's headed toward the left. He's trying to get our broadside again. We only have 5,000 HP. He just needs to hit us with one torpedo and we're toast. But it turns out... Oh, no, this is the salvo I shouldn't have shot here. My mistake. I blind fire right now, and these guns are on cooldown as the Akatsuki gets spotted there. So we're able to hit him with the rear turrets, and they're going to light a fire, which is going to temporarily render him visible and give us Confederate, but he goes dark. And you see there how close the guns are to reloading. I've basically lost the beat on the Akatsuki at this point. We're going to miss him, we aren't going to be able to get him, and we're going to end with a defeat. I think if I hadn't shot those guns, that might have turned into a 6-pack victory, but it's a defeat. Still, I think a reasonably good game in the Inamura, and I'm probably going to put more battles on this ship out because I've got another one that I'd like to show you. Just didn't have enough time to edit it into a video. But I would recommend the Inamura. I think it's a good campaign ship, easy enough to recommend the Admiralty backing. I've been enjoying it quite a lot. Hope you liked the video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.